Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Flags in a Gym, a podcast dedicated to all things color guard. My name is Eric. I'm your host and resident color guard nerd. And for today's episode, we're continuing our Dayton recap with Independent Open. Will is back, and we're talking all the guards and our top 5 predictions. So sit back, relax, and let's talk some color guard. All righty, you ready to talk some Independent Open?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Independent Open was a very fun class this year.
It really was.
And this is our second episode. So for those of you who are listening that may not have listened to the other ones, first of all, shame on you. Listen to the other ones. But second of all, so we're doing an episode for each class, and we're going to go through and just kind of give our general thoughts on the weekend for the class. Then we're going to go review our top 5s and fan favorites, see how we did. And then we're going to talk about all the shows. We're going to get started just with general thoughts. One thing I know is open class prelims was very weird because they had prelims at 2 different sites at 2 different times a day. So you had the rounds 1 and 3 were in the morning at UD Arena, and then rounds 2 and 4 were at the evening at the Nutter Center. But they had the same judging panel. So they didn't have to do the top 12 from each site. It was just the top 24 because they use the same judges.
Huh.
So they only do the different sites if you have different panels.
Yeah, I wonder why they did that. Maybe just they had the space for the day, so they really used them up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird. I wasn't a fan of that because semis for Independent Open were at Nutter Center. So if you were at Nutter for prelims and semis, you didn't see Dayton Arena until finals.
Yeah.
And the winning guard, Third Legend, was one of those groups.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not really. Yeah, I'm kind of like, I mean,
the Dayton schedule is just weird. I think because they have so many Scholastic Open guards now, because I think Scholastic Open prelims happened, and then it went right into Independent Open prelims after that.
Yeah,
because they move up 5 from A class each year at least.
Yeah.
So
and I think like 56 or 60 Scholastic Open.
Yeah, I was like 55 or 56. Yeah, and I think there's a bit of a I'm losing my train of thought. I had it in my head. You don't want to move back down from open. You want to kind of hold that prestige of being an open class. So I think a lot of these guards stay in open, even the ones that, are 54, 55,
There are some that could probably benefit from
yes.
a little A class moment, which is okay.
Honestly, it's better for your program. If you can't compete in the class, move down. Now, I know that's hard, especially on the independent world side, because once you go independent world, you're talking no age limit. Oddly enough, one of the guards we're going to talk about actually did that today. One of the guards we're going to talk about today has done that. They didn't move down today, no, but yeah, but they did have the same panel. So they took the top 24 into semis, and then all of semis was in Nutter Center. Top 15 went to finals, and our lovely first alternate was Zeus Independent.
I like them.
And they were like a point and a half behind 15th. So wasn't close. So they didn't have the gut-wrenching missing by a 10th, but
yes.
And then of course JMU Nuance Open had their bowl issue, so prelims for them was stressed. They had to change. They changed some things for prelims and semis with the girl in the bowl. They changed her quick. She normally falls in twice. Prelims and semis, she did the first fall in, when she's in that big split, that inverted split, and then she falls in.
Yes. Okay.
And the second time, she just kind of stepped back down into the bowl because they're like, we need this to hold for finals. And then finals, they're like, go ahead. And finals, and she dropped in the second time.
Aw.
Thankfully, that held for them.
I'm so glad it did. That would have been really.
I mean, because
that would have really been devastating for the whole plot twist of their program.
Right. And I think for the fans too, the fans would have been like, really? Like, I didn't get to see it live in person.
Right. They've seen that's true. It's been all over social media and stuff. And then to actually see it live and you're like, oh, she didn't do it. Yeah. But
you have any just general thoughts on Independent Open?
I really enjoyed it. I tend to just kind of thinking back in my brain of like all the times I've seen in an open class, like I've always really enjoyed it. Like, I just find it to be a lot of variety. They kind of we're like, we're just going to do whatever we want. And they have a blast doing it. And, this was very entertaining, I think is a great word.
It was a good mix, very good mix.
Yeah,
even if you look at like the top 5.
A lot of variety. lots of talent, but a lot of variety just in just what we were the show themes. And
Outside of us getting two typewriter shows back to back.
well, it's but even then they were very different.
Completely different,
So that
yes.
was great. So I was like, oh, didn't even bother, didn't even notice, so
Just like,
yeah.
what are the odds? Like, you both come out with a
That's
typewriter
true.
show, and then you go on back to back.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it just overall. It was great. I caught a few of them in prelims and then watched a little bit more of them in semis just to see kind of, who where things were shaking out scores to catch some of the ones that may not make top 15, but yeah, finals was great for sure. It was a lot of fun. We had some moving around a little bit. There was some movement and when they announced awards, so
We had
that was
lots
kind
of
of fun.
ties in open class. Like, I think, were there two ties in
There were
prelims, and then there was one in finals.
Yeah, there was one in independent open finals. I'm not sure about prelims or semis. I didn't catch that, but
I think
um
there was one in, I think it was prelims. I think Nuance engaged Chile tied, or but scores in going into, I forget if it was going into semis or semis going into finals, were super tight. Like
mhm,
fourth to 10th were like
was
a point apart.
yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, wow, this is crazy tight. So it was like independent world last year, it just adds extra pressure, where it's just like, oh, I want to be, so you end up
Hmm.
10th, but you're not that far behind. Um,
Yeah.
but
It
it
was
ended up spacing out in finals like it always does.
kept it exciting in that way too. I mean, it was I don't know. Yay! I love it all.
All right, so let's review our top five
Oh
predictions.
yes. Yes. What did
So my top five, I had Third Legend, Phoenix, Lavoot, Noir, and Revival. So I went 3 for 5,
hmm
as Third Legend, Phoenix, and Lavoot were the top three. Fan favorite, I had chosen. I didn't write this down. I think I chose Nuance. Wow.
I think you did, and I because I think I picked Phoenix or Nuance, I forget. But yeah, I think you had mentioned you would.
Yeah, I think I picked Nuance just because I figured the fans would love them. But as we learned, it wasn't just finalists. So Pride of the Netherlands was the fan favorite with their
That's
fun, wicked
right.
show.
They're wicked. Yes, they're kind of yeah, that was a I'm
It was a
glad
fun
they
show.
came. It was a lot of fun. You could tell that they loved doing it. They were having fun doing it and they gave I will say they gave some big flag features. Like I think at least
Did they
I
have one in each section?
I feel like they did, or at least two front kind of on the bookends, but they opened right up with a big old flag feature, and it was just
Yeah.
like, okay, here we go.
And I love the popular section. I think the
But
popular was the
it was
strongest part of the
it was
show.
very very cute. Yeah, yeah,
So glad they made the trip. I was hoping they would make
yes,
semis just from coming all the way from the Netherlands. Like, you
yeah.
hope, and they were like 17th. So, or I'm sorry, they were like 26th. So they missed it by like a place or two. Sorry, I was thinking finals, but it's like, wait a minute, they should have been in semis. And then your top five, you had Third Legend, Phoenix, Lavoot, Noir, and JMU Nuance.
Mhm.
You got 4 or 5.
Oh yeah, yay! All right.
So we both missed on Noir. They were in that top five going in, and just it was just so tight. They ended up
Mhm.
7th. Still great result for them. And then I
Oh yeah,
went, Revival. I had, and they were 8th. So it's not like we were super far off.
yeah. Not no, not at all.
Okay, so let's move on to let's talk about the guards.
Okay.
Ready? So 15th place, our first guard was Tampa Independent, and their show was called The Cave. They were 14th in semis. And they had the brown cave painting props in the back, and the floor is mostly black
Oh,
with a little cave print on the back side. And I enjoyed this. It wasn't my favorite. It felt kind of stagnant. Like it wasn't bad by
it
any means, but it was just like,
Yeah, they certainly, I mean, they had some really strong moments. I feel like their flag writing, like the flag book in particular, was very musical throughout. Like they did a great job with just how they used that piece of equipment to pick up the soundtrack. And they had some really cool moments. I loved when they got rid of their kind of gray flag to get the orangey one at the end, and they did like a 45 maybe, and they
and
went
went over the prop.
over the props. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun. So I enjoyed their flag book in particular. Yeah, and the props were kind of almost see-through a little bit. They had a little bit of a sheerness to them, which was kind of fun. Just kind of giving that like smoky, burning kind of, I don't know, that the illusion to that was really cool. And they did a good job with that too throughout. I thought the crackling embers kind of sounds and the way that they picked up on that with some of the weapon choreography was cool too. So it was good. It did feel kind of heavy. Just
Yeah, I think they had great.
constantly was just a heavy show. And just
Yeah,
in terms of just the not the theme exactly, but just the darkness and it was had some weight to it.
yeah, and I think they had great moments, but it was the connecting of the moments where it felt a little, like I said, a little stodgy, a little slow, a little thick, a little murky. It's just like,
Thick. That's a good word for it. Yeah. Yeah. It was very, yeah. Yeah.
And then one thing I will say, so with their ending flag, I love the brownie orange colors in it, but
Yes.
just a word of advice to all the color guard instructors out there: when you're designing a flag, be careful where you put lines, because their flag had like a curve in it that went right into the pole, that
Mhm.
was right along the rotation spin of the flag. And if you are
Yep.
not clean,
That spin spot, it's
ooh,
like putting a like a black flag with a white dot, and that white
yes,
dot is gonna go. That's all we're gonna look at.
yep,
I don't
yeah,
care
and
where
there
you put it
and
on the silk. It's gonna be
Maharlika and Independent A had a flag like that, because like the
yes.
moon, and all you
That's
see is that
right.
white dot going around, and those dots
Yep.
are not going around together.
It's a tough, really cool, but it is tough. Yeah, it
Right.
gives you a big challenge to work on, and yeah. But I did like that flag though. It was really pretty. But you're right. That was a risk with
Yeah.
the the way that curved into
Because
the
even minimal
design.
timing errors look big. That's one of those things. Just so it's like, just be careful. Like,
Yep.
remember, was it 2000? It was James Logan year, that they did Immortal Captive 2001.
Yep.
And I want
Oh
to
yeah.
say, I don't know if it was
They had
FJM or if it was Band Shop or somebody came out with that spiral flag. It was literally like a complete spiral, like a hypnosis one that all these guards started using. And for
uh-huh.
some reason, they always put a neon dot in the middle of these flags.
Like
And you're just watching these flag features and you're like, oh God, oh. Like, it's just like, because it's just so, you have to be so precise. So
hmm
I know Miamisburg did it. Northern
Yeah, that's
Lights did
fun.
it. They had that. I remember
Oh,
the
Northern
flag.
Lights. Yeah, was that 2002, I think?
Yeah, it might have
The
been because
Philip
I know.
Glass show. Yeah, it was woo. Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta
And
either
then
either either
Fantasia when they
pick
did
your
the
silk
Beatles
or
show
your
with that
pole,
black on
and
white
you
stripe.
gotta just pick your
Yeah.
poison of what you're gonna clean because one's gonna be a little messy, but
Yeah. So just be careful with your flag designs. But I did like the flag design. I just,
yeah,
I mean, it was a good finals. I liked their show last year more, the Kaleidoscope
yeah,
show.
that was really cool. But this was good. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. I
Yeah, we're
like it.
not ragging on it. It's just
No, I like it in the mix of the shows we saw in for this class. I'm glad it's there. It's a good option to have. So I'm glad they made it in. Again, some strong moments with the choreography, writing wise. So yeah, good job. Look forward to next year.
yeah. 14th place was Collage, and their show was 451. Obviously based on Fahrenheit 451.
Mhm.
Book burning. They were 15th in semi, so they were the last guard to make it into finals, and they moved up a spot. And I will say the show is very topical of current
Mhm.
times, and they
Yeah.
even include that in the middle section. I think that's a big reason we saw a lot of hope guards this year. Is
True.
because of the song and just the turmoil we're in right now. It's just, I
Mhm.
think people were just like, let's go for something that's very
Yeah.
politically conscious, but like let's make it we can get through this. Things can be done. Don't let the bad take
Right.
over. Kind
Yes.
of
Yes.
mindset.
And I with collage, the thing I love because I was like, ooh, like, oh, all right, they're gonna set their bookshelves, they're gonna set them on fire. Woohoo! All right, cool. But also, I mean, like, ooh, a little dark and scary. But I love that they had the hopeful moment at the end. Like it ended on an up note,
Right.
which I'm glad they chose that option. Um, and because it could have gone real dark real quick, and they
Yeah.
could have ended it.
I mean,
Uh,
we're all already so
but
depressed. Like, let's not
right,
make it
like
worse.
please, please, this is color guard. We're supposed to have fun. I will say I don't know if you caught any of this, but in watching finals with the multicam, I caught the costuming details.
They had like book titles on their legs, right?
Yes,
Or on the side.
yeah, one side was the book titles. They had this like flame motif up the other side. They had like book like a gold book binding kind of
Mm,
concept on one side of their body. I was like, that is really beautiful. Um
it's a
yeah,
great detail.
just really, yeah, really kind of subtle, but not, but like the way that it was just very sophisticated way to do that. And yeah, it was really, really flattering costumes and gorgeous on their floor and everything. Love that.
Yeah, and I like the twist where they turn to AI in the middle, like where you go to technology and then they have
Yeah,
all
I
the
didn't remember catching that like at the regional I saw them at. I didn't remember that part. So that was fun to see that again and be like, oh wow, this is a cool tie-in with that part, you know.
yeah, and then they had like the newscaster voiceovers about like, government banning TikTok and this, just kind of amplifying the whole government taking over everything, technology taking over everything. The one thing I noticed, so those props they had were very wobbly,
They
and
were
they had
wobbly. They were really tall. It looked like they were
yeah,
very tall and wobbly.
and they had people up there spinning, and I was watching these rifles spin up there, and you can see it just shaking in the wind, and I just thought,
Mhm.
hell no,
I
you
was like,
cannot get
nope,
me up there, nope,
not doing that.
nope.
No, please leave me on the floor.
Yes, I was like, do you need somebody to hold the prop behind it? Sure, I'll do that. I'm
Yeah,
like, you're not
I
getting me
will
up there.
happily do that.
There are many shows I could not have been in this year. I could not have been in Brownsburg. I don't do ladders.
Ladder,
I
yeah.
could not have been in this one. Like I don't do heights. Like even Brownsburg, they only went up like 3 or 4 steps. Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's
I
still
would
that's
panic. I am petrified of heights. And the only other thing that, one other thing I didn't really care for in the show, I want to say, is the opening voiceovers where they're
hmm
talking. There's the male voice and the female voice. And,
hmm
she's like, why would you burn book? But it's just delivered so flatly. Like
I
I,
think it might be from a movie though, because there is a movie version, I could be making this up, but I seem to recall as like a teenager, I feel like I remember seeing a um
did they have movies back then?
um yeah, yes, thank you, Eric. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am an old person, but we
We're
did
not
have
that old.
reel to reel back then in the late 90s.
In the penny arcade where you go.
Oh my gosh. No, I feel like there was like a movie version of Fahrenheit 451 that was, it was a good B movie. It wasn't like
Mm,
I don't know how that would have. We watched a lot of PBS growing up, so we, could have been like an indie movie.
gotcha.
I don't know, but it felt like that to me. And I was like, oh yeah, I get it. I don't know. I'd be curious to see where they found that, or you know.
Yeah, same because like I said, I feel the voiceovers are very pertinent to the show. It makes a lot of sense. It just the delivery felt so flat. But if you say it was kind of like if they did get it from a movie and you say you remember it being like a
I feel
B
like
movie,
it's
that
from
makes a
that,
lot of
or
sense.
maybe like an audiobook that was like acted,
Mm,
where like someone's reading through the novel, but they're quote unquote acting it. Maybe like a radio acting. That's what that's called. Kind of a thing. I don't know. That might be curious to find out.
I don't
Collage,
know.
let us know what your soundtrack really was.
Yeah, and it's just the first section. I
Uh,
felt like the AI
yeah.
section was fine, and then the ending was fine. It was just I don't know. It's just like this sounds so flat to me.
Flat. Yeah, that's a great word for it, I think. Yeah, yeah, just a very flat affect to
Yeah.
it. But no, I enjoyed. I had to know. I thought that they were actually going to place higher. I was kind of surprised that they came in out of semis that far down. Just I don't know. Just when I first saw them at the regional, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is great. And they had a good run back then too. So I was like, oh okay, cool. But then I don't know. Oh well.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't get in the heads of the judges to figure out what they're thinking. But I mean, I think with we're talking finals at Dayton. It's always tough to get in, and even at the bottom, it's usually quite competitive. So I very happy they made finals. Could they
Yeah, I
have been
loved it.
higher?
Great.
Sure.
But love the theme. Great job with that.
I
Yeah.
feel like every year people are just left like, huh, with a guard or two. And when we talk about independent world, ooh,
A lot of moments for me in that
there's a
one.
lot
That's
of
okay.
commentary flying around there. People are really confused and upset about independent world. Yeah,
So
so
stay tuned
congrats to
for that
College.
episode, folks.
Yeah, just stay tuned for that one. In 12th place, we have a tie. So
And
there's
this was
no
the
13th.
yes,
This is the tie. So we have Emerald that did Stained, and then we have Purdue that did What a Web We Weave. I have Purdue first on my list, so we'll just go with Purdue first. Even though standard order is to go alphabetical, but we'll rock the boat.
Purdue performed first in the lineup, so
There we go.
Your performance order.
And they did the song Libertango, very popular tango piece. You've heard it. Even if you don't know the name, you'd hear it at some point. Like, oh yeah, I've heard this. Very
Yeah, a
commonly
lot of
used.
bands have played it. A lot of
Yes.
classical concerts have done it. Like it's kind of all over the place.
Tango scenes in movies,
Mhm.
but not True Lies. True Lies is a different one. Great movie. If you've not watched True Lies, you guys need to
I
go
haven't
watch it.
seen that in ages.
Oh, it's an amazing film.
I'll get out my reel to reel and put that on. No, yeah, great song. I will say I feel like the very beginning portion of their program was something completely different. And maybe I'm wrong. I feel like they were using like oh, I completely lost it now, but I feel
It
like
might
the
have been a different
very
piece.
opening was a completely different piece. It sounded much more like straightforward classical, and then it went into this Piazzolla kind of. We get a little bit more of a Spanishy flair
Right.
for vibe. I don't know. That was just kind of interesting to me. But I mean, it worked. It wasn't bad. It was like, oh wait, this is not the same piece.
Other important thing we need to note: Purdue was promoted out of A class this year.
Yes, that's right.
They went to the Chicago Regional like the third week of February, and they were reclassified. Sorry, they reclassified. They don't call it promoted. They were reclassified into open class. So my local circuit got very particular about these terminologies because they would do the same to us. Just
Okay.
start because we break A class into 3 different divisions, which I think a lot of circuits do.
Ours does too. Yep.
So if you come out in A3, which is our lowest one, and you blow the socks off everybody, they'll move you up to A2 and then possibly move you up just like
Yep.
most circuits do. And they used to give promotion medals, so they would award you for doing this. But then you had people kind of start to game the system, just to get a little stupid promotion medal. So they
Mhm.
stopped calling it promotion and call it reclassification.
Okay.
So
Yes.
so they don't have to give you a medal anymore. So same kind of situation here.
It's the money.
If you move
Oh,
classes during the season, it's a reclassification. And then at the
which
end in
I mean,
championships, you
it
are
is.
promoted, if you're top 3, top 5, depending on your class.
Okay. Yeah, I like that though. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So they were reclassified into independent open.
Sure.
And they made finals, which is, I
They
think
sure
that's a
did.
huge accomplishment. To say many of those groups that do get reclassified don't make finals.
Hmm. Yeah, well, and I think because they got reclassified. I'm gonna struggle with that. And I feel like in the rankings and standings, they didn't. It took them a while. They were kind of hovering like just below the top 15 mark for a minute, and then boom, here they come, and they did a good job. I feel like they were already pretty clean, if I recall, but like
Yeah, they were
they
they were pretty
beefed
clean.
up some of their moments and did a really great job of bringing that music to life because that's a big piece. It's a lot of layers in that piece of music. So
Yeah, and it's also very repetitive.
yes, and
So
keeping that interesting and
yes,
not get oh, let's repeat this phrase again. Oh, we can
right.
do it again. Oh, here it is again. Yeah. Yeah, well,
Save
even
that for
staging,
marching band.
even with yeah, right. Even with staging, yeah, they kept the staging really interesting and a lot of variety, in that too, because that can be like, oh, perfect. Here's the chorus. Let's get in a block. Oh, here's the chorus. Let's get in a block. Yeah.
Well, they had all the lines on the floor that they could play off of too, which was nice. And
Yes.
then the lines were also in their flags.
Yes, that was a nice little tie-in, and the costuming had some binding and some pieces that were like tied around their arms and their leg, and kind of again tying the all those lines in.
Yeah,
So,
and it ties back to the show title, "What a Web We Weave." So it's
yes,
kind of we're all connected. Everything's
which is a
connected,
fun twist on that because usually you hear that title and it's usually spiders, and they
right?
were not spidery, so
They
that
were
was
not spidery.
fun.
And honestly, you could take a piece like this and make it spidery. I mean, the music I think would be very
Yeah.
equivalent to spidery. So
Ooh. note to self, put that in your hat of show ideas.
Right. Anybody needs a show idea for next year? Here you go.
There we go. Ta-da, you're
There's a free
welcome.
one. Or like I told the
Send
director of
royalty checks
Sonar.
too, P.O. Box.
Yeah. I was
Kara.
talking with a designer of Sonar, and he was saying, he was thanking us for the nice comments and everything, and we just talked about the season real quick, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm already stressing about next year." I'm like, "Don't stress,
Oh.
enjoy your Dayton high, stress later." And I was like, "And if anything, just do hope next year."
Yes. Just pull that one out and,
Just
yeah,
traumatize people.
fine. It's fine. Oh, no,
um,
they'll be just fine.
yeah, congrats to Purdue. Great
Yes,
season.
congrats,
Congrats on
Purdue.
making finals after being reclassified, which is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, excellent.
So their partner in crime was Emerald out of California, and their show was either called Stain or Stained. I could never
Yeah,
get it
I was
fully.
not quite sure if there was if it was with the ED or not, but regardless, yeah, that tarp was stunning. Like
Beautiful.
one of my favorite tarps all season was just beautifully done. So kudos to whoever designed that tarp for the Emerald because that was great. Yeah, love that.
Yeah, and they were going with kind of like a whole like ink drippy kind of feel because in the top right part of the floor you could see like the ink drips on the floor design.
Yes.
And at the end they pull out those really cool like strip flags, that were really
Yeah, those kind of
long.
like streamer-ish kind of like the ink is coming off of the pole and then all the fabric that came out too at they
Yeah.
pulled the fabric out and it's spilling over. Yeah, that was cool. And I think the costuming was like a gorgeous kind of chocolatey brown
Yeah.
with some we'll say drips of black on it too to kind of tie that in. So really, yeah, really beautiful looking.
Yeah, I'm still not crazy about the veils that they pulled out
Oh yes, towards the end,
towards
right?
the end, just
Yeah.
because they couldn't see their equipment. Like, and
Yeah, that was a struggle. And there were at least a good 3 or 4 groups that tried the veil thing this year, which was interesting. I feel like
I understand wanting to,
yeah.
you having a mask or something for an effect or whatever, but when you see those guards, even from afar, you can see the sheerness in them, so they can still see through them.
Yeah.
Emerald, you couldn't like
It
those
was
were they were
really,
thick.
really thick.
And
Yeah.
you could tell when the rifles caught, especially at the regionals. I mean, I feel like they were a little bit better in finals, but
Mhm.
they were barely catching their equipment. And then
Yeah.
that's when I go to the point like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is this really worth the effect points I'm going to get out of it?
Right.
I'm taking away their vision, adding some difficulty. They're throwing fives or sixes or whatever. But when they come down, they're hoping and praying they land in their hands rather than actually catching
Right.
them. So it's just like, where do you weigh that? So it's like I get the effect of the staining, the dripping, the ink, but at the same time, you lose the equipment portion of it. So it's
Yeah.
um yeah.
Risky stuff.
So and WGI has been weighing risk versus reward. If you go back to WGI releases a lot of their videos of their judges training and their continuing education, and one of the big focuses, especially in world class, was risk versus reward
Uh-huh.
and how the judges account for that, how they recognize that. And there's this whole like huge montage that they literally had like you give your spinners spinning assignments, post on Discord or Slack or whatever you're using, post your practice videos so I can see you're at home practicing. So there's judges sitting in their car or sitting at their office or whatever and talking about what they think of risk versus reward or this kind of excellence, just kind of like their continuing education assignments. And
Yeah.
WGI posts it so you can go and watch it.
Oh.
So if you're curious about this whole risk versus reward, they did a whole panel on it with like 4 or 5 judges over Zoom that's on YouTube. You can check out. I definitely highly suggest following WGI's Sport of the Arts YouTube page. Their posts
Yes.
all sorts of content and wanted to keep you up with
Very
rule
helpful.
changes, how things work. There was another video that they did, I think 2 years ago, we're talking about how score changes between semis and finals, because
Hmm.
especially in Scholastic A, you have
You're gonna see
16
a
guards going in
big
over
old
90,
topsy-turvy. Yeah,
and
it's
then they get an 84 in finals. And people are like, how does my score drop 6 points? They
mhm.
talked about this and explained it and numbers management and all this. So
Yeah.
that brings me back to Emerald with the risk versus the reward. Is the risk of not being able to see your equipment worth the reward of not catching it cleanly? But I did like the show. And you said the floor stunning.
Beautiful.
Probably top
Even
five
the
floor.
the flag, yes, yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely of the whole weekend, I would say, yeah, probably top 10, top pushing top five of the best floor designs. Their flag at the end was kind of a purplish, maroonish kind of shade that was,
The flag feature one.
yeah, the flag feature one. It was very dark, but somehow like popped in a great way. I don't know, at least on video. I mean, it was, I don't know, I loved it. It was beautiful. Yeah, just, and they were, I didn't realize how large of a group they are until they get to that flag feature.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they were
Uh-huh.
enormous. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, they did well staging, of like hiding. I don't want to
They,
say hiding, but like
but
disguising how many people were on the floor,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then all of a sudden they all get a flag, and you're like,
And
whoa.
boom, which I guess they spilled the ink. Haha, they're like, boom, we took over. Yeah,
You might be
no,
onto
like
something there.
I enjoyed that though. It was good. Good, solid group. Loved it.
Yeah, and they were finalists last year too. I think right around this
Oh,
place. So
okay.
yeah,
Nice.
nice steady program out there. So if you're out in California, I don't know what part of California, but you're looking for Guard to March
Anaheim, I think that's southern. It's near Long, like Anaheim is
near Los Angeles.
Disneyland.
Okay,
Yeah, it's south of, yeah, about like hour and a half south of LA.
okay. I know San Diego's at the bottom. I know Sacramento's up, and San Francisco's up
Anaheim's
north.
kind of in between LA and San Diego, so it's kind of
Gotcha.
nice area.
Okay, you used to live in California, right?
I did, yeah, Long Beach, which is about 30 minutes from Anaheim. So yes, but it all gets very blurry out there. They're all just mesh into each other.
11th place
Yeah.
was Blessed Sacrament Open, and
Okay.
their show was Beautiful Things.
And this was their first time
Yes.
with their open guard or their non-world guard making finals. Is that right?
Yes, it's the first time their open program has made finals. I
Oh,
don't know
nice.
how long they've had an open guard. I know it's been a few years. It may have been post COVID that they started with an open guard,
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
before. But I do know, I do know, because I've seen them since the Joker year for AMP, which was the first year, which was 22.
20. Yeah. Yeah, 22.
Yeah,
Yes.
22. So I
Yeah.
know they had an open guard then, because I was at the regional. I remember seeing them, and they've been out every year since. So yeah, first year making finals. So huge congrats to them. And I do have to go on record and say this. So I'm a man of my word, and I will own up to when I make mistakes and say things that are wrong or whatever. So I owe them an apology. I saw this at the Salem Regional, and I said it was better. I said this is a better year for them. They're getting better and better, but I didn't think it would make finals. And I said that. So I'm happy you proved me wrong. Blessed Sack, much congrats to you. I saw it at the East Power Regional. And even then, I was like, this got a lot better from Salem.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
And they did the Benson Boone song, Beautiful Things, with an instrumental before it, which I did not recognize.
I didn't, I'll be really honest. This show didn't make a bit of sense to me. And yeah, I was very confused the entire time. Nothing to do with the performers. It was just
The
the
design.
theme and I was, and I guess, and I could be wrong, but what I discovered was I think it's a street artist
Yes,
that you're
Basquiat.
referencing.
It's a famous New York queer
Uh,
artist, Basquiat. Yeah.
okay. So that helped a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, so this is where some of the visual imagery stuff is coming from.
Yeah, the floor, the pictures on the silk, even though they were very minimal, and
Okay.
then the
Yeah.
red props they had and everything,
They were
all
okay. So in finals, I was like, what is that? And I was like, oh my gosh, is it glowing? Yes. They had skeletons, red skeletons with glowing eyes. Freaked me out. I was like, what on earth am I watching right now? Oh,
See, I
right, it's
didn't get
a
that
color
out of the
guard
top view,
show.
so I didn't know that was happening.
It was something. So, but all that aside, makes a lot more sense now that I know that. And the tarp was actually very pretty. I will say that. Well, I liked the kind of graffiti-esque to it, like that look to it, but that yellow with the kind of a aqua
Yeah,
turquoise
aqua blue. Yeah,
blue, the white, like just the coloring of that was I liked a lot. But the group was great.
yes,
They were
performers were great.
performers were wonderful.
Yeah, remember, y'all, we're
Um,
not attacking the performers.
no,
We're talking
not
about
at all.
things we didn't care for, or whatever. We're talking about
Didn't
the design, all right? And
connect to the design, but the performers were yeah, and one much improved from the regionals they
Yeah.
attended. Yeah, steady improvement. Again, those sabers, they know what to do with a saber. That is for
Hmm. They know what to do.
they.
And I feel like they did a good job of emphasizing the soundtrack. They took a popular song, very popular song, and used it. That has a lot of hits to it.
Mhm.
And there's a part with, I think they were still on Saber, where he's going, please, please, and they had
Yes.
catches on each of those. Like they hit those moments. Like it's so simple, so stupid. You do a toss, you catch it on a certain word or whatever. But the way they did it, it works really well. It's very effective. I like those things where it's just like, you hit the beats. They're hitting the beat. It's a
Logical.
simple
Yeah.
thing to do. Just hit the beat, and they did it on a elevated level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love people
Oh,
that do current music, and
yeah, because that can be really tough to do because everybody, the
especially in open class where they
yeah,
want more sophisticated, more mature kind of design choices,
trying
which are
to
harder to do with a pop song.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah. But no, they did do a you're right. They did do a great job of interpreting that.
First year finalists. So
Yeah.
congrats.
Congrats. Yeah. Hopefully they'll keep it up and keep cracking the top 15 because that's awesome. And bodes
Hopefully
well
not
for
too well, because then Blessed Dog has to deal with the whole two world program issue that
oh
has
well.
never seemed to go over well with mini guards.
We haven't had that in a minute, so
We kind of have it now with Mirage and Minaj because they're
that's right, because
Minaj is the sister guard, was the open program for Mirage.
that's
But
right.
like remember when St. Anne's did it, you had St. Anne's World, St. Anne's Open. Like they were literally both St. Anne's, and then Open
Uh-huh.
won, and then they were St. Anne's World and St. Anne's New World.
New World. I was gonna say there's yeah, that was a didn't am I thinking of another one?
There was CGT in Texas. They had CGT Denton and CGT Dallas. They were both world programs.
Okay, there's that one. I got my brain's going farther back. Did San Jose Raiders ever have two world guards, or am I making that up?
I don't remember them having
They
two,
had an
unless that was
opening.
like
I know
early
they had
mid
an opening
'90s.
world and a well, maybe not. I don't know. If anybody knows, just let us know. That'd be fun to find out how many.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, so I remember St. Anne's happening because that's
Yeah,
when
yes.
we were
Yes, that
marching
one.
when that happened.
Yeah, we were very much involved in that. Yeah.
And
Well,
then
and
we
they
just
both
had
made
Minaj get moved up. I don't know if
St.
they ever made
Anne's.
finals.
I thought St. Anne's
Maybe they did, and they squeaked in, and they were like 15.
they were the I don't know, have to do some digging and look at
Because
that.
that's when Brian Murphy was doing St. Anne's and Boston, and you saw this.
There was
They reused the silks
I was gonna
from the
say there
summer.
was a flag that I was like, wait a second, this is the same. Yes, yes, yeah. Hey, why not? If it
I
works,
mean,
it works.
April Gilligan used to do it all the time with cadets and Lassiter. I mean, why not?
Yeah. Yep.
And
That's
all
true.
these other schools. I mean, I remember when I marched cavies, they were like, don't take your silks home. Don't try to steal your silks because we've already sold them to another guard, or another school. They're going to buy. And
Yeah.
with Third Legend here that we talked about, like they sold their benches at Dayton. Like they already sold them.
Oh
And,
wow.
um,
That's
and a,
incredible.
a school picked them up because they're going to use them. So it's just like, I,
Hey.
I have no problem with it. It's just, when you're on a huge level like St. Anne's, Boston Crusaders, St. Anne's, like a lot of people see it's like, wait, I've seen that flag
I was like, wait a
before.
minute. Yeah. It's which, it's kind of fun too. It's like, oh my gosh, hey. Yeah. But
The one thing we did get to take when I marched cabbies was our green cyclist uniform because I marched cabbies for frameworks and spin cycle.
yeah.
And they were like, nobody's going to buy these neon green spandex cyclist outfits.
They were bright.
So our caption was just like, just put them in your bags. Don't say anything.
That's
Just
awesome.
put them in your bags. So I still have mine in the closet. I will never wear it because I will never fit into that again because I do not have my hashtag drumcore body anymore.
Oh my gosh. I had my old Eclipse costume for a long time and I finally threw it out who knows when, but yeah, I was like, I wonder. And this was like, almost we're pushing 20 years later and it's like, nope,
you
not in the slightest. I'm
you
not
just pull it off the hanger. You're just looking at it off the hanger rod. You're like, nope.
like there is no way this is gonna fit.
I'm not even gonna attempt. Like,
Oh, no. Anywho,
yeah.
but great job, Blessed Sack Open.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep plugging away. Congrats
Yes.
again.
Yes.
10th place was Edge Independent Open. So we talked about their A guard having the sound issues in A class.
Okay, that's
And
just
then I found a little video TikTok I put on my Instagram. So if you haven't seen it, so I got a little more information. All their lyrics were in Italian, and apparently one of the members messaged me and said a lot of their choreography was written to the lyrics. It wasn't written to counts.
okay.
So them not having music made it extra difficult, but they rocked it,
Yeah, I
killed it.
saw the clip and I mean it was like, well, they had a pretty good run. It was incredible.
Yep.
So
And then the crowd was going nuts for him. So
yeah.
congrats.
We
But
haven't had a silent show in ages since what Onyx Open did it in '03, I think was the
yeah,
last
we don't need another silent show. We don't need
one.
another silent show. I love a silent feature. And
Yes.
outside
Well,
of
we actually
sound issues
well.
like Edge, that happens. But I do not need a silent show. They're so awkward to watch because
They
you
are.
want to clap, but then you don't because you're so worried you're going to throw off the performers, or
Yeah.
it's just so awkward.
Yeah. We did have some good silent moments this year though, which was cool.
Center Grove,
Center Grove, Lafayette, Missouri, and Scholastic A.
Miamisburg.
Um,
Is it Miamisburg or Miamisburg?
Miamisburg.
Miamisburg.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah. Miami's. Yeah. The Miami River in Ohio,
gotcha.
I think.
Yeah, they added a silent feature to their show. So
Yeah. Anywho.
Edge Independent, all about TV,
Yes.
being addicted to
Yes.
TV.
Super
It
that
was
the
called
giant
Plugged In.
couch, the big TVs.
Yeah, the couch potato that gets sucked into the TV at the end of the show.
Yes, it was the giant plug props with the cords that were going all around the I was like, this is so fun. I
The
love
production value was great. Like
yeah.
just the setup
10
was
out of 10 on the
great.
production value. Yeah,
Yeah.
really cool. I liked the show. I was it was fun to watch. It was they did a it felt like I was watching almost like a miniature movie. Like it was like just in terms of like they had this whole storyline and the plot of, the performer that getting sucked into the TV and it was I was very captivated. It was like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next?
I do love shows that have a very obvious storyline.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, when they're very vague and obscure and, just kind
Can
of
be
open
hard
to
to
interpretation. It's like,
follow
no, this
along.
telling you, no, homegirl sitting on a couch. She's
Yep.
watching TV. She's not picking up the phone. And then, she's being enamored and she's sucked into it. And then she's in the
And
TV.
yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it was they had a lot of really fun elements that they used with the performers that came out with like some sort of a screen like face screen
I couldn't see it from the
thing
top
on
view.
their
So,
over their face. I'm not sure. I don't think they ever picked up equipment, but they were dancing with them on and it was a kind of a neat element of that too. Almost virtual reality esque, I guess, kind of a
oh, okay. Like the VR headset kind of thing.
yeah, but it had like a face shield to it, so that
Huh.
you see it was neat. It definitely added to the whole theme. It was very cool.
Yeah.
I'll be
I like
honest, I don't remember any of like their equipment stuff or anything. I was just like watching
same.
them sell this story, and they did a great job.
Yeah, yeah, it's just one of those shows you watch it and you're like, oh, that was fun. Like I like it. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
you're I don't want to say you're focused on the storyline, but you're captured by the storyline. You're like, oh, okay, and you're listening to the voiceovers and like, and then you had I think pretty sure it was Billie Eilish that came on in the middle. That was like a,
oh
I just want
yeah.
to watch TV, the ballad moment. And
Mhm.
yeah, I liked it. A
Yeah,
solid
very
open guard. I think did they get bumped to World, then they moved back down, I believe. Was that Edge?
oh, I don't know.
There's so many Georgia guards now. I get them mixed up.
There are a lot
There's
of
so many Georgia guards. We're having a Georgia explosion in color guard, which I'm here for.
yeah.
But it's just like, with last year with Noir and Georgia State and Georgia that all did really well. They all medaled
And the one from Georgia Tech.
this year. Yep.
Yeah,
And
and
then you have Edge independent with two programs.
well, and
It's
the
just
high school teams that are coming back out
Hope.
from Pope, Lassiter, Kennesaw Mountain,
Yep.
Walton. Walton didn't come to Worlds, but they were fabulous at the regional they were at.
And then Lowndes High School, I think they're from Georgia, right?
Downs is from Georgia. Yep, they were there. I mean, yeah. So Milton, Georgia was at World Championships this year. Like so many. It's like, all right, Georgia, keep it up. You're doing great.
Georgia, do you have a state cheer song? The stars at night are big and bright. You should just
The
steal that. Can you
the Georgia
imagine what would
Peaches.
happen?
It's the Georgia Peach thing. I don't know. Ooh.
Deep in the heart of Georgia. Just start doing that. Watch the
Here we
Texas
go.
cards. It'll just like
Yes,
get
please.
so upset.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
That would be
That's
funny.
that's fantastic.
But yeah, Georgia people, if you're listening, let me know on Instagram. Do you guys have a cheer you guys do for Georgia? Because with the amount of guards now, you have to.
I mean, come on.
I
Yeah.
mean, especially if you combine the Georgia and Florida, like
If not,
just
we'll make one.
area. Yeah, we'll make one, right? It's got to be just do Peaches from the Super Mario movie with Jack Black. Peaches, 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 peaches. Be really
You could do
funny.
that to a clap. Peaches, 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 peaches. I don't think.
All the Georgia people are like scream, like just stop. Please,
Please
like,
stop.
please stop insulting us right
Great,
now.
great job, Edge Independent. Keep it up.
We're gonna move
Oh,
on to allegiance before we further
yes,
insult.
yes. Oh my gosh. In ninth place, right? They were
Yes,
ninth. Yeah.
allegiance. Yep, ninth place with the Diana effect. And they had the light up chandelier on the floor that was really, really bright and just kind of a standard classical movie soundtrack, like score track with a ton of voiceovers over it.
Mhm.
The bass soundtrack had a lot of good moments on it, and I feel like they did a great job of capturing the moments in the audio. They had a lot of features based around like the drums, like you hear it and like boom, 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 and there would be a toss. Like they
Mhm.
captured those, and then they had horn like riffs, like wah, and then something would go up in the air. Like I feel like they did a really good job of capturing those moments,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
had a much better run in finals because we watched prelims and they were like one of the first cards on, right?
I think they were in their first block. Yeah. I don't have my list
Well, they
over.
would have been later because I think they were seated
It
first
was
in their block.
they
So they wouldn't have been the first. No, MBI was the first card on, which I do want to talk about that because they were independent open. MBI, very first card to perform at WGI Championships because independent open started before anybody else, and it
huh?
was Hope.
Oh, no.
And I'm watching and I'm like, oh my God, the
Weren't they
very
were they
first
in
card.
did they do another kind of over the top costume this year? I didn't see it,
Yeah,
but
they did the doodle. They had the doodle floor, the white and black doodles, and then the
okay,
uniform, and then they had it
okay.
on their face too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
They are really good at they've kind of found their little niche of doing these shows and they are
yeah, I love the crash test dummies.
over the
That
top
was so
costuming.
cool.
So wild. Yeah.
But yeah,
Really.
so they
Anyway, okay.
anyway, yeah, they were in Allegiance's block. But I was like, really, how fitting that the very first card to perform at this year's championships, and it's a Hope card.
Uh-huh.
I heard because they started with Moonlight Sonata, and I'm like, you could tell it was adjusted slightly, and I'm like, it's coming, it's coming. I know it, I know. And then like 15 seconds in, Hope, I'm like, oh my god. um, but
That's
Allegiance, yeah, they had a much better run in finals.
yes, they had a
Um,
very strong run.
One thing I did notice, most of their show seems to happen on the left side of the floor, opposite the chandelier.
They did, yeah, they have kind of maybe not avoided, but they did not
I
interact
didn't
with
want to
the
break it.
chandelier. Well, I will be really honest, I did not understand this show at all. And I don't you mentioned the soundtrack. Is it from a movie? Is that what they were like
I
pulling
don't
from?
think so.
Or
I think it sounded like you would hear in any kind of drama film, just
okay.
within the score.
Allegiance
Um,
people, if you're listening, please let us know. I don't mean any disrespect, but I just did not get it at all. So I was enjoying watching the performers do their show. Had no idea how any of it related to the giant chandelier. Or
my
Princess
thought on
Diana.
it was it was kind of similar to like being a light in the darkness kind
Okay.
of thing. Because when you listen
Yeah.
to the voiceovers, there were a lot of voiceovers, which can be overwhelming. When you're trying to enjoy a show, but it's like, wait, I got to pay attention to what they're saying at the same time. Um, but it was like I always want to bring like happiness and I want to put good out in the world. So I think that's what it was. So it was the light being the positivity, put the positivity in the world. And then of course she died. So I think they turned the light off, to kind of symbolize losing that light in the world. That's
Mhm.
my take on it. Allegiance, let us know. Tell me I'm right because you know I'm right. No, I'm kidding.
I from a design like aesthetic kind of whatever, I did love that they had a flag or all their flags, same like pattern they used, just different colors, and they got progressively. I think they had like a kind of a pink and then like a really pale pale pink, and then white. And
Yeah, I think they went.
they all
Yeah,
had pleat in them, which was fun. It was a popular thing that some company came out with this pleated flag back in like the early 2000s. And it's just the way that you sew the fabric and whatever, but it just makes it flow in a really almost just very lyrical, very delicate kind of manner. But it was just kind of, I was like, oh, okay, that's just a nice little touch that they did with that with their silks because they were just solid silk. It wasn't, no print or anything on them.
yeah. I feel like I saw a stripe in it, but that could have been the pleat you were talking about.
Yeah, it was just the way that they did that, and it just kind of, yeah, but it made it flow really, really pretty. So, hmm.
Yeah, I remember there was a local high school that did pleated swing flags one year, but they were like so
Mhm.
they were like really short at the pole, and then they just
Oh,
fanned out
those
like a
huge.
clamshell.
Yes,
Be-
the clamshell ones. Yes, those
Beautiful on the field.
crazy to sew. I've
Yeah.
done that before. That's like,
They
whew,
sent me the pattern one time because, like you, I used to sew my own flags,
yeah,
and they said, "Oh yeah, you can have the pattern." And then I was like, "Yeah, no, this ain't happening."
because you
I'm
got to
like,
use
"Nope."
like 1,000 yards of fabric for one flag, and you're like, what is happening?
Right. And I'm like, I have 27 kids on the field. I
Like,
need
I'm not
54 flags. Plus, you have
not
to have
doing this.
extras for when they rip. Yeah, no. Nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
Anywho, really pretty flags though for Allegiant. I like
Yeah.
good choice.
Yeah. But let Will know what your show was about, and
Yeah.
then we'll see if I was right. But I could be wrong. I'm wrong all the time. Um, eighth place was Revival.
Yeah.
And they are out of Indiana.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Indianapolis. Yep.
Oh, so they're an indie guard. Okay. And their
Yeah.
show is Transcendent. And this was the Egyptian, Persian, Middle Eastern, that area
Yeah.
of the world show. I loved the music and the vibe. Like I love that whole like
Yes.
Middle Eastern Egyptian kind of sound.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, it was a good color show. I don't feel like there was a story, which is totally fine. You don't have to have a story. I am totally fine
Yep.
with you just spinning and putting on a great show.
Yep.
Like I don't need to have a story. I know
Yeah.
some people like Avon. I equated to Avon last year with the Voila show. There was a
Mhm.
whole storyline involved in that I had no clue. Some member went out like on TikTok or Reddit or something and was just explaining like it was like some girl traveling and she's in a hostel and she's like on this like self discovery journey and I'm like, huh?
I did not get that
No,
in the least.
didn't know, but I didn't care because I
Yeah.
loved the show because it was
They were
absolutely
they were just great.
flawless. It was stunning. It was amazing, right? I don't care
Yeah.
about the story because your show's amazing.
Yeah.
So kind of same here with Revival. If there's a story, great. I didn't need one.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, like you said, the soundtrack was really strong. The tarp design was, we were kind of getting that is it is it a scarab beetle that's in Egyptian
yeah,
culture?
it is the Scarabeel that you're thinking of.
That was I was getting kind of some of that kind of mixed into the print on the floor. The
I kind of got
costume.
like the Fibonacci sequence
Some
spiral,
of yeah, some of
but it
that.
also could have
Yeah.
just been a hieroglyphic of an eye because they kind of have that same
Oh yeah,
shape.
the eye motif. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much that yeah, all these little tidbits that are in there. Really
Yeah.
cool.
I still don't understand Revival. If you're listening, let me know. This banner that walked across the floor with the rifle
Yeah.
performer in front of it, and then it spun around and ripped apart, and they were behind it. What was that supposed to symbolize? I had no clue.
The one side did have like hieroglyphics on it, so that was kind of cool. I was like, okay, like we got a little, chunk of a pyramid wall or something. I don't know,
And
coming out. But then yeah, and then but it was kind of an interesting choice the way it just appears, moves across,
then disappears. Yeah.
and goes away. It was like, what was that about? But
Yeah, I didn't get what it was symbolizing.
not sure.
My favorite part was they do this like body ripple back bend across the floor. Like the whole guard is on the floor
Oh
and they're all
yes,
do like this like arm
that
thing
was
and lean back and into the floor. And then there's a rifle in the corner that threw like a 7 or an 8 and just nailed it. It was just like it was such it's a simple moment, but super effective.
yeah, and they
You
did it
know,
really well. Yeah.
and it did it really well, right? It's just like it doesn't have to be overcomplicated to be effective. It was a body ripple into a rifle toss, if you want to break it down. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
And the ending flag, beautiful. The purple and the pink, just
Yeah, that was a big, beautiful moment at the end there. Love that. Yeah, and then we kind of had that kind of gold mesh kind of
Yeah, like a
pyramid
sand dune or a
moment kind
pyramid kind
of.
of moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun as well. Yeah, that
I
was
mean, they were spot on with the theming, the
loved it.
costuming,
Yeah.
the whole vibe, it was really well thought out. I mean, I had them in my top five going in,
Mhm.
just 'cause I thought they would, surprise some people, but we had a different card surprise some people.
Right, it's true.
So congrats to Revival. Last year they did the Northern Lights show, right? That was Revival.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
And
yes.
that was a beautiful show.
That was really pretty. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I think they one of the strengths of this guard and the design team is they understand theming and how to
Hmm.
really hammer home their concept,
Yeah,
within
and they're
within the
all in
production
on it.
value. Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent job.
very cool.
Seventh place was Noir Independent out of Atlanta, Georgia. And their show was The Art of Composition. And I loved this show.
So good. These performers loved this show. They were a blast to watch, and just yeah, this was and what a fun interpretation of this. I mean, it could have gone any number of ways of what they chose to do. And I'll be really honest, it took me until finals and they were almost done towards the end of the show and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm staring at a giant typewriter."
Well, come on.
I literally did not. I was just busy watching them do their thing and I was just like, "Okay. Oh my gosh, it's a giant typewriter with a piece of paper on it and they're okay." So I literally did not get that until the show was almost
Everybody
over.
just face palm with me right now.
It's
Like,
fine. It's fine. Not a bad thing. I was just like I was too caught up in the rest of it. So, but I loved it. It was fab. I loved the black and white costuming was really a smart choice.
yeah, with the when they had the typewriter font on the
And
white parts of it.
yeah, just that the way that they incorporated the text a little bit and
Yeah, I just there I they had like three sections, I want to say. Like a part one, part two, part three. And I loved every single one. They were different. I loved the quirky kind of music during the rifle section in the middle, their flag feature.
Mhm.
Loved their flag feature because they came out and they were like, "Oh, you want us to spin? We're gonna spin."
We're gonna do
And they were
it.
twirling.
Yes.
And I'm
Yeah.
just like,
It,
yes. And they opened with saber and flag, and then they moved to rifle, and they had this one rifle performer come out, and they did a ripple toss across the floor to them, and they
mhm.
tossed this rifle. And every single time I watched, I'm just crack, crack, crack. And I'm like, when they were at the East Power Regional, half the stand stood up at that part. Like you're a minute into the show, and people were they were getting into it.
Yeah.
This one I do think should have been higher, but then you look at the list and it's just like
Yeah,
it's they're all so good. So it's just like, even though they were seventh, like
it is a heck of a seventh place.
yeah, it's a heck of a seventh place. Yes.
There is no shame whatsoever in being seventh place with a show like that.
Yeah,
That's
it's kind of like Scholastic World when you end up seventh or eighth, but you're just like, look at
like,
who you're behind. I mean, like Warren
oh my
Central, they
goodness.
were eighth.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
amazing show was
Oh,
eighth. Like
yeah, that's
incredible.
really incredible.
Um,
Love that show. That's gonna be one.
they're gonna be a guard to watch for a while. Yes.
uh, Yeah, and just yeah, loved it.
And they were promoted out of A last year. They were your silver medalist in A
That's
class.
right. Yes, yeah. Last year's show was gorgeous. Yeah, beautiful show last year, and then we get this. They're different side of themselves with this one. It was just super fun, and yeah, I can't
Yeah,
wait.
and I loved seeing this show progress. So I watched them a lot,
Hmm.
and um, yeah, they just kept getting better and better and better. And unfortunately, it's tight at the top.
It
And like
sure
like you
is.
said, one heck of a seventh place. So
Yeah, they were the first group to break 90 in the class for finals. So they, yeah, they were just 90.55 for them. So they crossed
wow,
that.
seventh place was over 90. That's crazy. Yeah, Independent Open was a good class this year. I mean, we talked about this before, but all classes were very good.
So strong.
Um, but just yeah, especially at the top of most classes, just super tight. So congrats to Noir. Loved it.
Yes.
I can't wait to
Can't
see
wait
you
to see
all
next
next
year.
year.
I
Yes.
know.
And we
Yeah.
both had you in our top five. Remember that.
Yes.
Remember that
Yes.
we had you
Yes.
in our top five. Sixth place was Gates Chile Open with their show Just My Type and another typewriter show,
And completely different.
completely different.
Like, how fun is that we got to see two what could have been very similar themes, and they are not alike at all. And I was here for both of them. So
Yes. I
yeah,
loved Gage Chile. I
they
loved it.
were on fire every single time. Just and oh, I don't I yeah. It was I know that this was another one. Like I was so captivated and just sucked into watching them perform and do all the things and listening to this soundtrack and how they're tying things that they're doing into the soundtrack of this typist who's just describing what she does and her job.
Yeah.
But I just it that was so clever and kind of world class in a way, I think, and taking that type of a a soundtrack and really, I don't know, that would be so hard.
Yeah, because the soundtrack, if you take
There's
just the soundtrack, there's not a whole lot to work with there. It's just
it's just
typewriter
her
noises, but they did
speaking,
so much
and
with it.
well,
And
yeah, and
they brought the soundtrack to life. Like
really,
if you just heard that like on Spotify, you'd probably be like, what the hell is this? And
yeah,
then you
what,
see it in a color guard show and you're just like, they gave it life. And you're
yeah,
just like, this
brilliant,
is so
yeah,
cool. Like the little
yeah.
breakdown section they had in the front right of the floor where they were getting down like the drop it like it's hot moment. I was all for it. I'm
That
like, I
was
am here
great.
for this.
They
This is
moved those
amazing.
desks around so easily
Yes.
and on them, around them, through them. I mean, oh gosh, they manipulated that set so well. And
And the
yeah,
whole 60s secretary, the what is it called?
it's very
Secretariat movement, right? Just I love the whole vibe and the
it's just really, and the coloring. I love that they chose that very very mid-century modern that kind of avocado green with this blues and this they
very, very
so
of the
smart
time
with
that they were
that.
trying to portray. Yes, it's
Yes,
just
yeah, loved it. Yeah.
yeah, great, great show. I love
I can't wait to
these,
see what they're gonna do next year. My goodness.
and this was
And
another
their
one that moved up from Independent A last year. They were fourth.
and their A team was in semis and
Yes,
independent A and was a great little group. So
it's another one of these like you have all these guards out of like upstate New York, like
and
Shindahoa, John C. Bertelbaugh. You have Gage Chile. There's like
so that's my
and
question. So Gates Chili is a high school,
yes,
but these guards, are the guards still connected to the high school program or are they completely separate now?
that I don't
Any
know because I
idea?
remember Gage Chile High School used to compete in A. They won
Yeah.
A in 2006.
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah, I remember they were
And I'm
they were
just I'm
consistently in
wondering,
finals.
how do we have any connection to that, or are they completely, I don't know. I'm
I
just
wonder
be
if they just went in if they went independent because I know
well,
Shenendahoa did that for a couple years.
they were independent all through the 90s, and into the early 2000s. They were in independent A for a long time.
Yeah, and then they went back to Scholastic, and now now
Yeah.
they're back to World. I've seen schools do that to avoid being in a class they're not ready for. So my circuit, we had a school, and
Oh,
they either won A or came in second, got promoted to open, and they were like, no, 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 no. I think what happened was I think they graduated a ton of kids out, and they're
mhm,
like, we can't do this, so they went independent so those
okay.
kids could come back and ended up being successful there. So I'm not saying that's what Gage Chili did. I know some groups
Oh,
have done that where it's just like you moved me
yeah,
to open, I can't compete in open. I just lost half my guard. So
yeah,
like, okay, we'll just go independent instead, so I can bring those kids back and I
yeah.
can don't have to start over.
Yeah, Gay Child people, if you're listening, let us know how your program works. 'Cause I'm just curious. 'Cause just thinking back to WGIs in the past, I mean, the high school itself, the high school guard was in finals multiple times, I think,
Yeah, multiple.
90s
Yeah,
and 2000s.
the
So,
early 2000s are all over
but they
the
did
Scholastic A
also
DVD.
have an independent group that was kind of in and out too. So yeah, I'm just curious how that works for them, and that's cool. And they've got two fab programs, so they're doing something really well over there.
Yeah, I mean, they can still be affiliated with the school and just be
Yeah,
independent, and then they use the school for their rehearsal facilities, but then they can bring in from outside schools.
yeah. Huh.
Because as many high school directors know, it's hard to get kids in.
It sure can be, or depending on your district and how that, I mean, sometimes it's tough. So yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, loved it, loved it, loved it.
Yes.
I wish we had DVDs because I would be rewatching this one and Noir many times over and over. WGI, please bring back the DVDs. Figure that
Oh my
out, please.
gosh. I will sign a release form that I will never show anyone else. Me, my DVDs. It's fine. They're just gonna be in my house. I promise.
We need to find a way to preserve this activity so we can rewatch it.
Yes, yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
but moving on, fifth place was JMU Nuance Open. This is a Virginia
Yeah.
Guard represent. They are in my local circuit, and their show was On the Rocks. And you all know this show. It's the whiskey show. I don't think I need to tell anybody what the show was about. Everybody's seen it.
The
Um,
giant cup,
yeah, the giant glass full of brown water that they dyed with Mr. Fizzy color tablets. And
is that what they've used?
yep, that's what they used. Yep,
Okay.
they use little kids' bath bomb basically to dye the water. And great show, very emotional. The show's called On the Rocks, obviously playing on the rocky relationship. I mean, they set the tone right from the beginning where they're sitting at that table, they won't really make eye contact with each other, and then she pulls away from him, and they use Lover Please Stay, I believe is the name of the title, from Anything But Thieves or Everything But Thieves.
I think so.
It's very similar to that. And they had ice cube props on the floor, the
Yes, which
glass.
I again, my my blind self here. I was like, "Oh my gosh, the cubes on the floor are the ice cubes." I was like, "This is so clever." I love that. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it's a really really good show. This was an amazing year for them. This is a record score for them for as a program.
I was gonna ask how if
Um,
this their highest placement that we've seen from them.
yes,
Oh,
yeah, because this is the highest they've placed in Open. Yeah,
okay, nice.
they medaled in A,
Okay,
and then they've been in Open ever since, and now they have the A program as
yeah,
well. And I know they've made finals once before in Open. I think they were like 13th or something. So this is a amazing result for them. And
yeah.
they had to deal with the stress of their prop breaking and just
Broken glass. Yeah,
the
that was.
added stress. I mean, I could not. I would die. I would
And
die.
even
Because even if like you forgot equipment with where you are with WGI, you're so close to like somebody. You like, I need a yellow
someone
flag.
someone
Someone will
could
get you.
borrow, right, you
Somebody
could
will get you a
easily
yellow flag,
borrow
right?
something. Yeah,
That may not be the exact one you need, but you could fill that.
you could, yeah,
Your
make it.
prop breaks that your show's like, I would die. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Oh
I
my
cannot. So very happy that they got that fixed. And yes, I will continue to talk about this because that is just
it was.
that's my color guard worst nightmare. Like my show's based around something. Now their show wasn't based around the glass, but I mean it was
No,
a
but
very focal. It was a focal point,
yes, was
and
it?
then it broke.
Yeah.
So like,
Oh God.
and you can't go without it. What you're gonna have her fall into an empty one? Like paint the inside so it looks like water. It's like then she falls in and nothing happens. Like no, we can't do that.
uh, yeah. No, it was a really really cool moment for that. But the rest of the show itself was also really good.
Yes.
I mean yeah, wow, what a super strong group just from their equipment and movement.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments is there's a rifle toss that happens in the back of the floor, dead center. Guy throws six, I'm guessing, and a female performer torches into his arms, and she catches the gun.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Incredible. So
It's
he throws it. So it's your play on the hole. He tosses, she jumps on, and he catches. But no,
no,
she catches it.
yeah.
They do this crazy lift on the ice cubes. They push the four ice cubes together
Yes,
and make a
yes.
platform.
That moment was
And the girl who
really
falls in the water she's in part of the lift. She's the base for it. And
okay.
so she's grabbing and she's leaning back. And it's just, if you find a video of it, watch for that lift. It's really cool. Flag feature, very clean. Flags were very beautiful.
Yeah, I loved the design with the like really was well, it was the ice cube, I think, on the silk.
I couldn't tell if it was an ice cube
Or was
or if
it
it was
glass?
meant to be like a glass with whiskey in it. So it had that brown tint.
But
Like the old like 80s, 90s crystal glasses that everybody seemed to have.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was supposed to be like
Maybe
the
more like
design on
that.
the outside of the glass or if it was supposed to be
Okay.
ice cubes.
Yeah.
Either way, I
I loved it. It
the
was
reference is
really
there.
it was a great design to kind of mix in with the set and the whole. Yeah, it was a good choice. Love
Yeah.
that.
And they did not get a single penalty
Hey, all
because
right.
everybody was just like, how do they not get a penalty with all the water?
Well, they
They were on top of it. I don't think they got, well, I'm not going to speak because I don't know, but I don't think they got a penalty all season for that. So they were on top of that. There was a little issue of the East Power Regional
Hmm.
where they performed and
Oh yes.
they pulled the tarp up, and then there's this wet spot on the WGI base tarp. But then the staff comes over with towels, and the spot doesn't move, like it doesn't smear, like it wasn't water. But it
Weird.
was so weird. It wasn't there when they went on, but they leave and it's there. But it's just like they went to wipe it up and it nothing happened. It was so strange. It was like an oil stain. Like the water revealed something, but it's like it
Yeah,
didn't leak
that's
through. But you could see, because that's when I was talking about that they were on the warpath with the confetti.
yes, yes.
So that TMP judge walked right over there and she was rubbing her foot all over it and this, that. And the directors came over and they had towels and they're rubbing it and nothing happened. So it's just like, they're like, it's not us. Sorry. But it was so strange.
That is very weird. Huh.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, congrats to JMU.
Yes,
Great
big
show.
congrats.
Great job. If you want
And
to know more about their program, I think it's episode 4. I sat down and talked with the directors of the Open and the A program. You can find out all about them. Tons of
yeah,
great information in there.
their A guard song is literally
Oh
stuck
my
in my
God.
head
Earworm, total
nonstop.
earworm.
I, yeah, that was it's a great I was actually thinking the other day, I was like, I wonder if I could just buy that tarp and the costumes and the flags and just have my garden do it here. I'll just recycle all their stuff with my own team and we'll just do it again until I get just keep listening to that song.
And then you go out and perform and people can be like, wait a
Like,
minute.
it's fine.
It's art.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, congrats to JMU. So
Big
now we're
congrats.
going to move from JMU to GMU,
MU.
fourth place, George Mason University from Fairfax, Virginia, another local
Yeah.
guard for me. So this
Are
is
they in the same
wild. That
circuit? Do they compete in the same circuit?
yes, they're same circuit.
Okay.
Yep, they are the two open guards we have. George Mason University used to be world. So 22, they won open.
Uh-huh. I do
Um,
remember that. Okay.
they had
Yeah.
like a 99, like it was like mind blowing score. They won open, got promoted. So they were in world for a few years. They moved back down to open.
Okay.
They were struggling in world, and I think also with just I think for them they just decided it'd be a good step for us to move back down to open,
Sure.
which they did, you know. And honestly, respect for making a decision like that because that's tough, you know, because when you move out of world, you're putting an age restriction back on your program,
Mhm.
you know. So because world, there's no age limit, open 23, you
Yeah.
know. So they did lose members because of that. But sometimes you have to do what's best for the program, you know.
Yeah.
And their show is called For Mama, and I know the staff of this guard very well. One of my very 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 good friends is the movement director,
Mhm.
caption head, designer, whatever you want to call her. And I have a former student that's in this show. So, but the show has a huge sentimental value to the director. Like, it was for his mother. That's why it's called For Mama. And then we're gonna jump to the end of the show where they pull out the blanket and put it over the performer. And it
Yes.
was covered of pictures of the director and his mother or his mother. Like it was a real
Okay.
life like
Okay.
dedication. It wasn't just like some prop. Like it had real legit
But yeah,
pictures and stuff on it.
that's so sweet.
Super sweet. And
They
this
were,
show was understated and subtle, which I love.
uh-huh.
It wasn't in your face. It was,
I mean, we saw movement and some flag for almost probably what, almost 2 minutes before weapons even thought about
mhm.
coming out from behind the house. And I was here for all of that because yes, give me all the flag.
Yeah.
It
And
was
they have
such
such
a
a
beautiful
signature style. Just from watching them locally for years. Lindell Palmer, he's the director, spinning the equipment for in ways you wouldn't think to spin it.
Mhm.
And, you know, angles and crazy grips and silk work. And just, he has a very different vision on it, which I think is really cool. And if you watch it, you'll see that, you know, because
Yeah,
his flag work is excellent. I love it.
they they were they were a pleasant surprise to me, I guess. I don't well no, they were at was it the Salem Regional or the
They were
regional?
at the East Power Regional. Yeah.
Okay, I must have seen them on that live stream and I was like, okay, like I like this. This is a feels good show. You know,
Yeah.
I like that.
So fun fact about that, the East Power Regional. So because they're my friends, I went to the rehearsal site
Yeah.
and they kind of had a cursed season where it's just they could not get their things. Like they went to the Philly regional
Mhm.
for their second regional, no floor, no flags, no props, no uniforms. Like everything just took forever to come in. They got their props the day of prelims for the East Power Regional. So those 5 panels that are over there in the corner, they
Yeah.
got they didn't have those until the East Power Regional.
Wow.
Like they met up with a person in that area to get them and they're assembling them at practice. It's
Oh my
just like,
gosh. Well,
but
they handled that really well because
they
it
did. And
didn't seem
look,
like it at all.
top 4 open class. So it's just like, note to all the instructors out there, if you're struggling and things just aren't work, keep pushing, keep plugging because it'll work. It'll pay off. Just
It'll come together.
focus on your product on the floor and then the rest will fall into place.
I loved their song choice, A Song for You.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who sang this version of it. Um,
Was it Luther Vandross? I don't know.
oh, perhaps.
I don't know who sang it either, but yeah, I
There's
do
a
know.
Ray Charles version that I've heard before, but
Okay.
it
No,
wasn't
this well, yeah, this wasn't Ray.
this was
No.
not him. But I loved it. It was a beautiful, beautiful choice. And again, just yeah, it just felt really good. The flower petals coming out kind of at a again kind of unexpected moments of
Yeah.
when they introduced that, but it was just like, oh, so touching and just really lovely.
And it was incredibly musical. Like
Yeah.
there were so many
Yeah.
piano like do 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 do, and you just
Oh, all the
they caught all of them and
yeah.
did something different each time. Yeah, and that flag ensemble toss where they come under their leg, grab
Mhm.
underhanded, and threw this like whip 45 out of it. Like if you weren't paying attention to it, you'd be like, okay, no, whoa, wait, how did they grab that?
Rewind
How?
the tape. What
Right?
just happened?
I was like, how did they grab that? So that's what I was talking about. With like everybody does that standard backhanded 45 toss, right? You grab a backhanded, you throw it 1.5 double. It's a staple in the activity at this point. And they grabbed it a different way from under the leg and just loved it. Beautiful, touching,
Yeah.
and surprise at Dayton because they were seated 11th. I think their plan was we want to make finals, we want to have a good showing, and then after prelims, I think they were 5th. I think.
hmm And then they moved up one spot, and they were knocking on the door of a bronze medal. So
Yeah.
that's
So
pretty incredible. Now, did they get promoted to world?
no, no. Open is only top 3, so
Okay,
they just missed it. So
okay. Yeah.
man, that
So
could be a sigh of relief. There, we're just like, like it's
great.
like
Yeah. Here's a question. And so, do they have like a fall marching band program at the university? Do they do
no, they don't.
that?
No,
Okay.
but what they do have is they have a world class percussion unit in indoor.
Right. Okay.
So they're
Yes, I
competing right
have seen.
now. Well, it's
Yes. Yeah.
recording.
Yeah. Happy percussion week to everybody. WGI. Yay. But yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I've seen the percussion team before. And they're very good. Um,
Yeah, I don't think they have a football team, so no marching band program.
oh,
They
I
just
love
have
that.
the color guard program there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and they've been insanely successful. All
Congrats.
right, top 3.
Here we go.
Third place was Levoot Performance Ensemble out of Missouri. I'm sorry, Missouri. I'm gonna keep calling it
Lewis.
that. I can't get over that announcer calling it Missouri State. And I believe the show title was Maybe It's Simple.
I believe so.
That's a
Yes.
song they used.
Yes.
Uh,
Gorgeous song. Yeah. A friend of mine works with them, and I was like, what? Please tell me what this song is. I've got to find it. And he sent it right to me. And I was just like, this show,
you start that playlist yet?
no, not yet. I've been busy. I work during the day. Um,
So do I, because this podcast doesn't make me any money. So
right.
yeah. Spoiler alert to all y'all listening. I make zero money off this. This is a passion project. This podcast costs me money. So
Send your donations to P.O. Box.
right, please.
Care of William Stevenson.
Whoa, no.
Just kidding. Uh, no, Lavoot. This show was absolutely just beautiful. I honestly, I was crying at the end of it. It was just, I mean, I cry at anything really, but, but this one, wow, something about their attention to the lyrics and the song and how they were interpreting everything just was so incredibly well done.
And I
Um,
love like just, it's maybe it's simple and the whole song is maybe it's simple and then the setup is just a simple white floor,
white
white
floor,
costume.
white
Just it's a
costumes.
very simple like
Mhm.
setup production value. It's just like it's not overly complicated. So playing into the simplicity of it all.
Yeah. And yeah, just beautiful. I one of my favorite flag features of the whole season. Um, Incredibly musical and so well written and performed.
The flag feature, the flags were beautiful, weapons strong as always. I mean, it's what we expect out of Levoux.
Mhm.
The last year with the was it the Amazing Grace show or something
Yeah,
similar. I think that's what they
the
call it, something like that. But
like that. That was it was striking.
I
With the
mean,
big ramp and the
yeah.
it was that was breathtaking too. My
So
goodness.
I mean, we know they know how to put out a damn good color guard show.
Yes. Yes.
So,
I'm
um,
excited to see how what they do next season as they
in
go
World,
into the world.
yeah, I'm excited to see how they do in World. I think they'll do well. It is a difficult jump, as we saw this year. None of the promoted guards made finals, and two of them made semis.
I think
I know
so.
Alta Maria did. I think Minaj snuck into semis
Yes, that's right.
because
That was
Georgia did not make it. So it's a tough class, and more keep getting added to World, and they don't want to demote down to Open.
Mhm.
So it's going to get harder and harder to make World Finals.
Right. Ooh,
Second
that's a,
place was Phoenix Independent, and they are out of Sylvania, Ohio, right?
yep. Yeah.
And their show was Reflections,
Mhm.
and they were a Hope Guard, and they
Yep.
were probably the most successful Hope Guard in their class,
Yeah.
uh,
Definitely.
with the mirrors and
The mirrors and the just golly Moses, this show. Like, wow. Wow, wow, wow. They were powerful right out of the gate. Or beginning of the season and
yeah,
just had an incredible run and I'm
they showed up
still
at the Indy Regional and they threw down.
it was holy mackerel. Yeah. And I'm still like, yeah, you mentioned the mirrors. They have all these mirror props and the the timing of them moving these mirrors around was choreographed so well. And it was that even that was just so well done. Sometimes you move your props and it's like, oh, I'm just moving the prop. Okay, it's gotta go over here. No, they like incorporated moving the prop into the whole deal and just were so detailed with that. And gosh, their performers were great. Really strong, especially the rifles. I feel like were super strong. Um,
Yeah, there were a couple things that really stood out to me. So my son was actually watching this over my shoulder because
Mhm.
I was out and about with finals, because I have kids and I had to go to his soccer game, and
Yeah.
and so little pro tip. So if you pull up flow marching on your computer or TV and you leave it running, you can rewind it. So that's what I did. I set up finals to run, and I went to the soccer game and I came back so I could rewind it and watch it without having to wait for the rebroadcast the next day. And so I couldn't pull out my phone at the game to watch it because it would cut off my feed at home, because it'd be like, oh, you're in a new location, whatever. So we get home, and Levoux had just finished up. So I'm like rushing over, and we're watching Phoenix, and he's looking at them spinning in front of the mirror. He's like, oh, look, you can see looks like there's more of them. There's two or more, like there's three of them. And I said, yeah, that's kind of like one of the whole cool effects of it. It's just when they set up the mirrors and they would have a rifle spinning in front of it, it like doubled the rifle line.
Mhm.
And it just like, it's a simple effect. It's just like, this is really cool. Like it just adds more.
Yeah.
And then another part, when they pull out the red flags, there's a part it's almost like a backing track vocal. It's like
Mm.
just kind of happens in the background. Anytime that happened, the red flag would go up and over.
Yeah.
So the red flags it's just like picking up those little nuances in the soundtrack I find so cool. And they did that. Yeah. The mirrors were crazy cool. So many cool effects with them.
The whole, I mean, yeah, it just
When
it,
they built the wall of the mirrors and they were all in front of it. So it looked like there were like 60 kids on the floor.
my
Like,
gosh, that was a powerful moment. Yeah, because it like rushed to make this wall, and then what it left like a couple performers that were like kind of featured, and then it was ooh, that was just striking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kudos to to the staff for putting all that together, and the performers just killed it.
Yeah. And Phoenix people, if you're listening, let us know how many mirrors did you break all season? If
Yes, did you
any.
have any break? But also, what were they made of? Because they were
There's no way they were real glass mirror. Yeah.
insanely reflective. Yeah, just yeah, give us the behind the scenes on your on those mirror props, Phoenix people, because that was incredibly well done, and wow, just wow.
Yeah, because if you've ever seen those big mirrors that you have in your bathroom at home over like a double sink vanity, you ever try to pull one of those off the
Uh,
wall? Those are
those are like
heavy.
a yeah, you're lifting like a truck. I mean, it's so
And
heavy.
these were way bigger than that. So there's no way these were actual I'd be interested to know what these exactly were.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent job.
Love
Welcome
it.
to world class.
Welcome. Yeah.
And now to our winner,
Yep.
Third Legend out of Canada, Quebec, Canada.
Mhm.
And their show was Ne Me Quitte Pas, which means Don't Leave Me, sung by Celine Dion. And I mean,
It
what do we say? It was
yeah,
just, it was stunning.
beautiful. It was really beautiful. They had a fabulous season. They've been good. I mean, they've had great seasons in the past, so this is nothing new, but wow, they just something about it just clicked really, really well together for them. Those props, which you got to play with,
I did get to play with
were
them.
so
Yeah.
the kind of seesaw balancing prop thing. It was so those were what a that talk about risk. That's risk because they were doing
Yeah.
some stuff on those. I'm gonna get on one side, slide over, but also toss in the middle of the slide, and then you're gonna
Yep.
catch it. But I'm gonna get so many moments of that, and
Yeah,
oh,
and they were meant to symbolize like an unbalanced relationship and how the a relationship can tilt back and forth
okay.
based on how you interact with it and everything, and that's why they were so topsy turvy.
Isn't
And
that beautiful?
yeah, and it's just yeah, they were incredibly
Just
wobbly, hard to get on, and it's just
yeah.
it was so good, so good. They had one little flub, but
It doesn't,
that
it's
didn't
fine.
matter.
It's fine.
There's a recording, I think DPG's account, Digital Performance Gears account, did a time lapse of their performance from like the top left corner,
Okay.
so you can see and just watching the benches move and how they pull everything around. It's just so well done. And you know what? They proved me wrong. I do have to say, they were a little upset with me that I picked Phoenix to win in our predictions. Um, and I was talking with my friend Carolyn, who's on the staff, and I said, "Well, I didn't want to curse you, so I picked you not to win, so you would win, right? Because you pick somebody to win, you put a curse on them. So
Oh my
Third
gosh.
Legend, you're
Yeah.
welcome."
Aw.
No, they did all the work. It was funny. She jokingly said, they heard your podcast and heard you pick somebody else to win, so that like lit a fire under them. They're like, we're gonna go and win now. So,
Well, when was the last time we had a Canadian guard in world class? Was it Sonor back when they were
mhm.
still competing in?
Sonor's the last one I can think of. Did Leslie Clips ever go world?
I don't know.
I
I don't think I
I
know.
honestly don't
So
remember. I feel like Carolyn's probably screaming at me right now. She's like,
maybe
"We talked about this." Like,
well, I didn't hear it, Carolyn. Tell me. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm curious. Yeah, which I mean, yeah, because Sonor hung in world class for a long time. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just curious about that part, but they were just beautiful. Just watching them move. They could have just danced the whole time and it would have been incredible.
they move so well, and they
Really.
spin really well. I mean, they had some really cool choreography in there. They had this one part where they go to separate corners and two people pick up a flag and they're on the bench and they do this little silk toss, like they do a spin. They grab the silk and then they flip it to another performer, and it's just
That
like
was
so many cool little
so well
moments, and they were so nice. Like I went to their rehearsal and they were also like just what you expect, like of Canadians. They're just super nice people, you
done.
know. And the director Vincent was super super friendly and just yeah, great program there. I'm so excited for them. They're going to World now, and
Yes, that's gonna be exciting.
they get to stress about that. And I made a joke with him. I said, if I ever need a new country to live in, I'll move to Montreal and come march you if you go world. And now they're world.
Here
So
they are. That's awesome.
at least
Oh.
I'll audition. Sorry, I'm not guaranteed the spot. I'll audition. I'm a little old for this. So
Uh,
but yeah, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And they were first, prelims, semis, and finals.
Oh, really? All three? Okay.
All three. Yep, they were first the whole time. I know Phoenix and Levoot tied prelims. Yeah, they tied prelims.
Okay.
But they were Phoenix was in the morning group, Levoot was in the evening group.
Hmm.
But it was the same panel.
Yeah.
So
Exciting. I love it.
yeah, well, I was watching Third Legend, and I don't get emotional, and I was just because I feel like I have a close connection, because Carolyn, who's on staff, like we marched Kiwanis together 2001. So it'd been 24 years since I'd pretty much even talked to her. And then when we reconnected, it was like time had never been missed. And
Oh, I love that.
and they were just so friendly and so welcoming and just, so I developed a very strong connection to these people.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so I'm watching and I'm just like, when I was watching Retreat, they do the 15th to 4th and they do the thirds or whatever. And I knew that was coming and everything. I always laugh when the crowd groans when they do Scholastic first and they get to fourth and then they're like, now we're going to Independent Open. And people are like,
oh.
really? One of them, I think it was A class. The announcer was like, come on, y'all. You know how this
Exactly. You
works.
know
We've
how this
done this.
works. This
Like
isn't new,
they
right?
literally
Like,
said that. Like, you know how this works. But then when they announced Phoenix in second, I mean, I teared up for them, and I'm not that person. Like but I was just so happy for them
yeah,
because I know how much it meant to them, and just you get happy for your friends,
yeah.
and three of my friends were top five. So
Hey, that's fantastic.
so
This was an exciting class. Yeah, just loved the whole again just the variety of every single show, and it was exciting. Loved it.
that's that. So world class will be Third Legend, Phoenix, and Lavuch. Welcome to world class.
Welcome.
Best of luck. It is that's a tough jump.
Yeah,
So start spinning now. You should get to rehearsal next week.
that's right. Oh gosh.
All right. Any closing thoughts on Independent Open? I think you
No,
kind of already did. Just
yeah, I'm excited for next year. This is it's gonna be that's it bodes well for the future. So enjoy your rest, but start practicing, everybody.
yeah, enjoy your rest until most of you guys go to April camp in a couple weeks. So,
Yeah, if you're doing drum corps, that's right. Yep.
all right. Well, until the next episode, y'all. Bye.